Hey everyone. Okay, as we move through the presentation, I'm going to welcome and encourage you to participate. We'll be using interactive polls through Slido. So if you have a chance, take a moment to join the poll on your phone or internet browser with the code listed. And give me a thumbs up if you're ready to go. All right, let's get started. Thank you for joining me to discuss fostering financial wellness for our future leaders. My name is Shannon Hines. I'm a 2021 FINRA Fellow, an accredited financial counselor candidate, and a mom of three. When my kids were babies, I was consumed with feeding and sleeping schedules to keep them healthy. As they transitioned to toddlers and elementary age, I found my focus shifting toward healthy food, exercise, and social skills. As our kids grow, we continually reevaluate what's important to teach them to be healthy and successful members of our community. Today, we're going to talk about the importance of intentionally shaping our kids' money stories without guilt or shame and fostering financial literacy in our kids as they grow. After all, we are raising our future financial leaders. So financial well-being is already incredibly complex and nuanced. Throw in parenting and teach it to your kids, and whoa. It'd take a week of workshops to really dig into it all. Don't worry, I'm not going to keep you that long. Today, we're simply going to explore three of the pillars, a good foundation, for talking about fostering financial well-being in our kids. As in every area of raising children, we must first look inward at our own core values and habits. Today, that will be our own personal money stories. Next, we need to consider how we're communicating with our children and how they're communicating with us. Together, we'll explore some strategies for effective communication about money. Lastly, children need to be taught the financial skills they will use as they engage more with the world around them. We'll discuss different ways you can consider teaching the children in your life the skills they need to be successful and confident users of money as they grow. The kids, not the money trees. All right, so our first engagement. Everyone's money story is deeply personal and started forming back when they were just a kid. Before we can start to teach our kids about money, we must uncover the ideas and attitudes that we hold surrounding money. So think about the money messages you heard as a kid, the stories you told yourself about money, and how those messages still show up in your life today. For example, as a child, I believed that money was scarce, but I better share my money or else. And many of the things I wanted were too much money. So go ahead and enter your thoughts into our word cloud. So I see sale, spend, money grows on trees. You have to work hard to get your money. Work equals money. Yes. It's limited. Yes, these are all things that we heard growing up. Great. All right, so now we're going to think about how your money story impacts your relationship with money today. How does your money story influence the messages that you're sending to your children in your lives? So, story time. When I was about 10 or so, I decided it was time to smash open the life-sized piggy bank I had been stashing money away in for over half my life. The toddler-sized pink plastic girl-shaped bank was so heavy I could barely tip it over on my own. But I had my heart set on a doll that my parents said was too expensive for them to buy. The cash I had in my hand was about $15 short, and I knew I had it in my girl bank. So I punched a giant hole in the bottom and spilled the coins, bills, random toys, and tickets from our pretend concerts all over my floor. And then I cried. I had considered smashing that piggy bank so many times, but I had always stopped myself and decided to wait. Now I had finally done it. And even though I was so sure of what I wanted to use it for, I felt immense guilt and regret. This moment was seared in my mind and was a corner piece of my money story. I became a super saver teen and adult. It kept me out of debt, but I also consistently and frequently denied myself the enjoyment of my money. When my kids started spending money, it dawned on me how frequently I was trying to convince them to save their money, even when they wanted to spend it on planned goals. This part of my money story was in full control of my money messages and out of line with what I wanted to teach my kids. So maybe the things you learned about money as a child were healthy, positive, and all around in alignment with how you think about money today. You rely heavily on your own money story to guide the money messages you pass down. Perhaps your money story has a bit more complexity to it, and you still struggle with aspects of the money messages you learned as a child in your own daily life. Yet you're more aware, mindful, and more intentional now about the money messages you send to the younger generation. Or maybe it's true that your money story is full of shame and other problematic notions that is really affecting how you communicate or don't communicate about money to the children in your life. Or you just haven't considered the connection at all. Would anyone like to share their own thoughts about this? Feel free to come off mute or however, raise your hand.
I was never taught to save. So to me, it was something I wanted to do with my children once I learned the value of saving. So to me, it was all about here is money, spend it, and yes, you have to work for it, but never like put money away.
Yeah, so kind of the opposite. You were not focused on saving, and now you want to teach your kids to save that. That's great. Yep. Anyone else?
I know that I've actually caught myself because I joke with my wife about money, and it wasn't until, I'd say, "Oh, we found $5 in the wash machine," let's say, and I'm like, "Oh, awesome! We can go out, we can eat lunch tomorrow." And I didn't realize that my two children actually are listening and pick up on these things until they're like, "Well, I know this is expensive, Dad, and I don't want to not eat, but can we get such and such?" And I'm like, "All right, so now I have to realize what I'm saying about money because they're listening."
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to talk about that in just a little bit, how their little ears are listening to everything that we say. Anybody else? Any other thoughts? Yeah, so all of these are valid and significant perspectives. Exploring your money story is the first step to aligning your values with your messaging goals. So, borrowing from our financial terms, what's the opportunity cost? The utility of money is a pretty abstract concept, especially for our younger kids, and especially in the age of credit cards and tap to pay. They typically don't see it come in or go out, but they know that we need it, like they know we breathe air. But we start teaching kids about other abstract ideas like kindness and creativity as toddlers. So in some of the same ways, we can help our kids understand how we use money. We can be specific about how our money is fueling our life. We can be open and honest when kids ask questions, have concerns, or are pushing our boundaries. We can keep the conversation ongoing, building on the foundations that you laid before as your kids reach new milestones and greater understanding. And then follow through with aligning your own money values with the messages you're sending. So as a kid, I believed that most of the things I wanted were just totally out of reach. My parents drove used cars that would get us from A to B, but also had chipped paint, and the ceiling carpet was falling down all around us. I mostly wore my sister's hand-me-downs, and her new clothes came from thrift stores or the sale rack. The story I told myself was that we just did not have the money to live a nice life like my friends. The reality was that my parents prioritized family vacations over the newest car or the trendiest clothes, something that I'm grateful for today. We traveled away from home multiple times every year growing up, and those memories have lasted longer than any other possession we've owned. At the time, I just wasn't aware of the opportunity costs my parents were making. It wasn't until I was a college student studying accounting that I first heard the term opportunity cost and understood that my parents were aligning their money and their values with their choices. When my kids got old enough to start asking for new toys or clothes, I heard myself repeating the same message I got as a kid. No, we can't afford that. When my daughter loudly exclaimed in the middle of Target to her brother that we can't afford that, we're poor, I realized the money message I was sending was not in line with the lesson I wanted them to understand. I did some soul searching and then shifted my language to begin saying, that's not our priority today. Let's put it on your wish list. Then pulled out my phone and let them go ham taking pictures of the things they wanted. They soon began asking to put things on their wish list instead of asking for it right now. As my kids have gotten older, I've started expanding on the message. Our priority right now is groceries, so we have food for lunches and snacks this week. We can put that on your wish list. Or more long-term thinking. We aren't going to eat out today because we're going to eat out on Friday, and we are also saving for our camping trip next month. Now that the kids have their own money that they're in charge of, I will ask if they have money they would like to spend on their right now want. This shift taught my kids more than one thing. We have a plan for our money right now, and it's okay to want things and plan for them in the future. It also had the added benefit of curbing that in-store begging for the shiniest toy without laying on the shame and guilt of wanting it. So the way we communicate matters too. The messages we send and receive are not simply the words we say and hear. The sometimes disputed guideline is that 80 to 90% of communication is nonverbal. Regardless of how much of communication is nonverbal, we know that it certainly has an impact on the effect of what we're trying to say. Nonverbal communication includes things such as eye contact, body language, gestures, voice inflections, and more. So are your words saying one thing, but your tone of frustration saying something different? If I say to my kids, hey, that toy's not on our priority today. Let's put it on your wish list, okay? Will my kid get the same message as if I say, that toy isn't on our priority today. Let's put it on your wish list, okay? Even though the words are the exact same, the message received is totally different, and the impact on my kid's perception of money is different. This sounds simple, but we know it's not. As you do this work, remember it's okay to not get it right all the time. Recognize those moments of frustration or other times you miss your goal. Forgive yourself. Then return to your kids and reframe the message to match the values you want your kid to understand. Another thing we know about raising children is that they are sponges and absorb everything in their environment, even when it isn't directed toward them. This is like what Alan was just saying. In my house, at least, my kids think they're a part of every single conversation. How the adults are communicating around the kids matters. They are listening. How we talk to our partners and other significant adults in our lives also influences how we think and act, including with our money. So check in with each other regularly about financial decisions and set up family meetings where the kids are included in some aspects of the family's money matters. Learn to compromise to avoid making money a major conflict. If needed, bring in a third party, such as a financial counselor, and that can help you find ways to explore your differences and align your goals in a non-judgmental, less emotionally charged environment. Talking to kids can often feel like learning to speak a different language, and in some ways it is. Kids' level of comprehension and brain development means we cannot relate to them as peers. However, a lot of the main tips for effective communication with kids are the same as respectful dialogue with anyone. They may not be adults, but they are human after all. Creating an environment that's open and positive will lay the foundation for an ongoing conversation and encourage questions that lead to a deeper understanding of the topic. If you don't know where to start the money conversation, it's always safe to start with celebrating money wins. When you just listen to your kids' thoughts about money, you'll also start to better understand what they already know, what they value in their own lives, and how you can better support their learning. When I take the time to genuinely have a conversation with my kids, I really do realize just how cool they are. Do we still say cool? I think so. So what are some other ways you can think of to communicate more clearly with your kids about money? Let me know in the poll here. Use real words and easy descriptions. Absolutely. Yeah, we can get caught up in especially as financial professionals in talking about it and like those abstract ways. Give them opportunities to practice. Wait until they have a better basic understanding of the value of money. Give examples they can relate to. Have an account with their own statements to look over together. Yep. Think of your choice of words. Those are great. Absolutely. All right, so now that we've established that our money stories impact the money messages we send and reviewed communication strategies surrounding kids and money, what do we actually teach them about money and when do we start? In Raising Your Money Savvy Family for Next Generation Financial Independence, Doug Norman suggests that your kids are old enough to learn about money as soon as they stop trying to eat it. My favorite guideline is don't wait, but it's never too late. So at the earliest ages, you can read books and stories about counting, jobs in your community, or just with basic financial concepts. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau actually has a list of age-appropriate finance-related books on their website. You can also start counting coins and using pretend play to connect real-life financial concepts like using money for grocery shopping or buying tickets to their living room concert. This is also the perfect time to start discussing wants versus needs. So use fun moments to pinpoint or to point out when waiting for something is worth it, like a turn on the swings or to meet Minnie Mouse at Disneyland. What else can we teach our youngest to future leaders at this age, around 3 to 5? Any ideas?
You can have them actually pay for something at a cash register, just like even just handing over the money. Is
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah, a lot of us don't carry around cash, but sometimes at this age, it's really fun to be able to give them a couple of dollars to pay for their own hamburger at McDonald's, or even use the credit card, swipe it on the machine, tap it on the machine. That's fun. Any other ideas? All right. So moving on to our school-aged children. So this is the age where money concepts can really start to come alive, and children begin to form their own money habits and values. So in this age group, they can start to earn their own money and make choices about how much money they want. They can do jobs around the house for extra money. They can take some extra time to help the neighbor unload their groceries. They can start a business or a lemonade stand to earn more money. Giving them more responsibility over how they earn money is a fundamental way for kids to grasp what it takes to earn a dollar. This is also a great time to introduce the importance of keeping their money in a safe place. All their hard-earned money shouldn't be left for baby sister to rip up like confetti. We can do this by providing them a wallet or piggy bank or even opening a savings account at a bank. We can then introduce basic budgeting tips that align with our family values. My favorite way to frame these conversations is by saying, hey, this is what we do. Would you like to do something like that? Or do you have a different idea? I find that it helps our kids to hear what we do, but then leave the conversation open and the decision up to them. It can sound something like this. After we pay our bills, your dad and I will put some money into savings for emergencies and also for things we want in the future, like vacation money for our next trip. Would you like to save some of the money you just got for souvenir money for our vacation? Or do you have a different plan for that money? I love teaching budgeting to my kids, but I've also found that my money story of super saver and buyer's remorse can easily be transferred onto my kids. This is where I have found introducing the concept of comparison shopping has come in handy. It satisfies my value of pausing to think about what they are buying while also giving them the freedom and permission to actually use their money to shop. Word of caution, hunting for the best deal can easily become the enemy of making a wise purchase. So what other ideas do you guys have for this age group? Anything? School age children, 6 to 12.
When I was going to elementary school, one of the fifth grade teachers had a whole shop set up for his students, and they could earn points depending on like certain behaviors and stuff. And I didn't get to be in his class, so I was so bummed. But they helped stock the store. They sold to each other. They had to earn points. It was really a good way for them to see like the whole process of earning money and spending money.
Yeah, I love that. Being able to just go and shop with some play money is a good way to, make the concept come alive.
I've tried, my wife and I have tried 3 separate occasions to come up with chores and a monetary value and then a tracking, and it's lasted about a week. And then it's just so much work to track and to pay that I, I'm realizing that I'm failing as a parent because of this. But um,
No.
yeah, and it's funny because my children are like, "What do you want? We don't need anything." So I'm like, "All right, cool, rock on," or "Hey, would you like to do this?" Well, what do we need money for? Okay, so I'm failing, but
You're not
that's
failing. We're all trying to figure this out. There's no right or wrong answers here. It's all just trial and error, really.
Yeah, and our second grader, for kindergarten, her kindergarten teacher used dollars for them to earn prizes for their behavior. So if they were caught doing something right, they were given $1. They could earn up to $5 a day. If they had $20 in a week, they could get a big prize out of the big treasure chests and smaller things. But and then it reset every Monday. And
I
then
love that.
in the first grade classroom, she used coins. That teacher used coins to help them learn how to count money and all that stuff. But so they would earn coins and depending on, they would have, okay, you're working on pennies, you're working on nickels, dimes, quarters, 50-cent pieces, whatever. And so they would trade them in for things at the end of the week to build up a bigger cash store. So it was really interesting how different teachers use the money to motivate the kids, and it helps them learn, but they also feel like they're earning money.
Yeah, they feel like they're earning money. It's also kind of playful and it's rewarding good behavior and they get something out of it. It's all just a win-win all around. All right, so now moving on to our teens. Dun, dun, dun. As our kids grow into teenagers, our goal begins to shift towards launching our young adults into the world on their own. So we may start to give them more responsibility over their own expenses. Maybe they get a part-time job at a local ice cream shop, or perhaps they learn to start investing. Complete transparency here. I'm not at this stage yet, so my perspective is strictly observational and research-based. According to the CFPB, at this age, our kids can begin to have the ability to manage their own money, to reach a specific goal. They can also start to understand money concepts like long-term savings, taxes, bank statements, and sort through reliable information to make informed choices. At this stage, our role as caregivers can kind of become more back-end support when we start to notice that our kids are having trouble sticking with a goal, making choices based on unreliable information, or regretting their financial choices. So a few practical tips for this age are you can review pay stubs to better understand gross pay versus net pay, paying taxes and where that money is going. Somebody had mentioned that earlier, looking over your bank statements. You can also, this is also the perfect time to introduce the time value of money and start building the healthy habit of contributing to savings accounts, high yield savings accounts, retirement accounts. Use this time to show your kids how to research and compare products and services at different financial institutions. And then introducing the concept of protecting your assets with insurance. Excuse me. When kids start driving, it can be an easy introduction to monthly expenses and protecting assets by having the child pay for their own auto insurance bill. You can talk about what the law requires, what's available, and then deciding what is most practical depending on the value of their car and the necessity of having their car. Anybody else have any important concepts or tips that you can use with this age group?
My kids are also super young, but my brother is in high school, and I talked to him about the cost of college and how he's going to pay for that and what his plan is there. That's, I think, something you can talk to this age group about.
Absolutely. College planning is great for this age group.
We use matching for their savings. So both my kids had jobs, and we had 1 year where we said we will match whatever you put in your savings. And that was a huge incentive for them. And it kind of gives them the concept of matching at a job down the road.
Yeah. That's great. I love that.
I think reinforcing consequences when, if they have a fender bender, they have to pay for it, even if they have to be on a payment plan, or if they lose something, if they break their phone, just always reinforcing consequences. Like the parents aren't there to bail you out for you being negligent.
Yeah, the phone's probably a big one for teenagers. Yeah. All right. So a note on allowances. People can have very strong feelings about allowances. So how would you rank these 3 most popular options based on your own values? Should you give a set amount of allowance regularly that's not tied to chores? You just give them the money and that's theirs to spend. Or you give allowances based on chores and jobs that are completed. No free money is given, but the kids have the freedom to spend their own money however they choose. Or no allowances at all. All chores and money are communal responsibility and property. Parents are in charge of the financial choices. Kids may present their case for things they want, but it's up to the parents. All right. Oh, interesting. So right now, no allowances at all is winning. I'm curious. Yeah.
Well, it's kind of funny. I didn't have an allowance growing up. I did whatever my parents told me to do, and I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And as I got older, the job requirements got bigger, So, but nowadays it's different, in my opinion. I want them to have the work ethic just to have the work ethic, but I also understand the importance of learning about finances. So it's that's an easy way to show them about, hey, you work, you get paid, but you know what?
Yep.
Or pay them for everything they do and then charge them rent. No,
Yeah.
because that is a legit thing. So you mow the lawn, you get
Yep.
$20, but to live in the house, it costs you something.
Yeah. There's some
But
kind of monetary value there. Yeah. Yeah. So we kind of do a blend of these personally. And that's, I mean, obviously a choice. These don't have to be one or the other. Anybody else have any thoughts about this?
I think when my kids had jobs, if I was paying them to do chores or things around the house, then it became optional. Like, well, I don't really need the money, so I'm not going to do the chores, which is not okay. So we separated them that, chores are because everybody lives here, it's everybody's job, and they have to be done before you get to use a car, a phone, your perks from living in my house. Um, it just was easier because um, I think the older they get, then if they can have their own money, they don't really want to do the chores.
Yeah.
And we had family jobs, right? That was
Mhm.
part of being in the family, but we had some things that were paid. So we were
That's
kind of
what we
a
do.
combo of one and two.
Mhm.
So mowing the yard, shoveling, we paid people to do that because it might be something that we would hire out anyway when we're older. So
Yep.
we did that. And we had kids that did that while they were in college. They would go and mow our yard so that they could earn money while they were in school too.
Yeah.
I can't afford to pay my kids to shovel in Utah. Way
But
too
you have a good
expensive.
Too
snow
much
blower.
snow.
You can
Yeah.
do it.
my dad always said you're going to be don't wish your life away to go out and make money. He's like, your job should be to get good grades until you get out to college. So I may morph that to, all right, and I don't want to incentivize the desire to learn, but you'll get X number for an A, X number for a B. So when
Yeah.
you don't want to study, do you need that extra money? That might be another option.
Yeah, I've had friends who have absolutely been paid for their grades. That was their chore. That was their job to get good grades
We
and
did that for a couple years in high school too. A was this much, B was this much,
yep.
C was this much.
Yeah, so there's lots of ways that you can choose to uh, pay allowances or call it something else. Whatever works for your family is really what is going to be the best answer here. So interesting. So we're teaching our kids about money all the time, whether intentionally or not. Don't worry though, you got this. You don't have to be perfect with your money or an expert on financial well-being to effectively foster the financial literacy of the young people in your life. Here are a few more resources that can help guide you and your children to achieving financial wellness that will lead to a fulfilled financial future for our next generation. Thanks. I'm done.